Hey, this is Pastor Bunjee Garrett, and I want to take some time today to present you with another word of encouragement. Well, if you haven't heard by now, you might like to know that the enemies of Israel have had a really bad week. As a matter of fact, the military leaders of Hamas and Hezbollah and even Iran, they've been punished for their crimes against Israel. And as we consider the details of these deaths, the enemies of Israel ought to realize that there is a God in heaven who's able to punish those who attack the apple of his eye. Now, before we get into all the details, I should remind you that it was just this past Sunday on July the 28th, that's when the president of Turkey, he threatened to invade Israel in support of the Palestinians. And seeing how Turkey is a member of NATO, this threat against Israel should concern the leaders of every NATO nation as Turkey brings us all closer to World War III. At the same time, the president of Turkey should also be concerned, especially after learning about the three military leaders who were just taken out in Beirut, in Tehran, and in Damascus. This includes Tuesday's assassination of a military advisor for the Lebanese terrorist organization, better known as Hezbollah. That's right, it was just 2 days ago. That's when the Israeli Air Force, they took out the head of Hezbollah's strategic unit while he was in the area of Beirut, which is the capital city of Lebanon. And seeing how this was the terrorist leader who has been directing Hezbollah's attacks on Israel since October the 8th, well, then there should be no doubt that Israel was completely justified in targeting this person as they took him out there in Beirut. The same can be said for yesterday's assassination of a top Hamas political leader who was killed there in Tehran. That's right, it was just yesterday on Wednesday, July the 31st. That's when the head of Hamas's political bureau in Tehran, he was taken out there in the capital city of Iran. It should also be noted that there are conflicting reports about whether this was a missile strike from outside of Iran or if it was an explosive UAV launched from within Iran. According to the most recent reports, there was a bomb that was actually planted in the guest house where he was staying. And while it's true that this guest house was managed and protected by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the bomb was apparently placed there approximately 2 months ago and then detonated after Haniyeh had arrived for the inauguration of Iran's new president. Well, regardless of the exact way in which this assassination was carried out, there should be no doubt that this terrorist leader from Hamas was targeted and taken out there in the capital city of Iran. And this on the day after a Hezbollah leader was taken out in the capital city of Lebanon. And what's even more interesting is that there are unconfirmed reports about an Iranian leader who was just assassinated in the capital city of Syria. And according to one report, the commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Aerospace Forces was just assassinated yesterday in an attack near the Syrian capital of Damascus. And while it's true that this IRGC commander was the man who orchestrated the Iranian attack on Israel last April, it's also true that his days of launching missiles at Israel, well, they're now over. And if the reports are accurate, then this Iranian terrorist was taken out there in the capital city of Syria. And within 24 hours after the other two terrorists were targeted, both in Beirut and Tehran. Now, as we consider these reports, we shouldn't be surprised to learn that Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, he's given the order to strike Israel directly. And according to the anonymous testimony of 3 different Iranian officials, Khamenei, he issued an order during an emergency meeting of the Iranian National Security Council. The same officials also inform us that Khamenei ordered Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps commanders to have both attack and defense plans in place in the event that the war expands and Israel or the United States strike Iran. And not only that, but a former IRGC commander just threatened Israel as he also declared this, and I quote, "Israel will pay a heavy price." Well, in response to all of this, it was just yesterday evening, that's when Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he addressed the nation as he assured every Israeli that they are prepared for any scenario. And here's how he put it, and I quote him here: "We are prepared for any scenario, and we will stand united and determined against any threat." And then he went on to warn the enemies of Israel by declaring this, and I quote, "Israel will exact a very heavy price for aggression against us from whatever quarter." Now, as we consider the 3 assassinations that just took place in Beirut, Tehran, and Damascus, there should be no doubt that we're about to see a full-scale war there in the Middle East. And listen, if Turkey decides to get involved, well, then I can't help but to wonder how the rest of the NATO nations will respond. Hopefully, this is all just a bunch of saber rattling from Turkey, and yet what we do know is that there will be a full-scale war which will result in the destruction of the 10-nation confederacy that's found in the 83rd Psalm. It's actually Psalms 83 where we find a seer named Asaph. He's crying out to the Lord as he declares this. He says, "Do not keep silent, O God. Do not hold your peace, and do not be still, O God. For behold, your enemies make a tumult, and those who hate you have lifted up their head. They have taken crafty counsel against your people and consulted together against your sheltered ones. They have said, 'Come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be remembered no more.' For they have consulted together with one consent. They form a confederacy against you. The tents of Edom and the Ishmaelites, Moab and the Hagrites, Gebal, Ammon and Amalek, Philistia with the inhabitants of Tyre. Assyria also has joined with them. They have helped the children of Lot, Selah. Deal with them as with Midian, as with Sisera, as with Jabin at the brook Kishon, who perished at Endor, who became a refuse on the earth. Make their nobles like Oreb and like Zeeb. Yes, all their princes like Zebin and Zalmunna, who said, 'Let us take for ourselves the pastures of God for a possession.'" Now, here in all these verses, we find Asaph, he's describing this day when 10 nations will form a military confederacy as they gather together in order to come in and conquer the nation of Israel, to wipe the name from the history books. And just to be clear, this military confederacy includes the Palestinians, the Saudi Arabians, and not only that, but the Lebanese, the Syrians, the Iraqis, the Jordanians, and the Egyptians are going to join in with this campaign, which appears to be orchestrated by Iran. It's also possible that we're currently watching this military confederation forming right before our very eyes. And if so, well, then you might like to know how this battle will end. And with this as the focus, let's consider the outcome as presented by the seer Asaph. It's in the 83rd Psalm where Asaph goes on to declare this. He says, "Oh my God, make them like the whirling dust, like the chaff before the wind. As the fire burns the woods, and as the flame sets the mountains on fire, so pursue them with your tempest and frighten them with your storm. Fill their faces with shame, that they may seek your name, O Lord. Let them be confounded and dismayed forever. Yes, let them be put to shame and perish, that they may know that you, whose name alone is the Lord, are the most high over all the earth." According to Asaph, the Psalm 83 war is going to end with the enemies of Israel being blown away like the chaff before the wind. Not only that, but they're also going to be confounded and confused as they are put to shame by their defeat. And according to Asaph, their defeat will help the world to see that the God of Israel is the true and living Lord, and that he is the most high over all the earth. As we consider this prophetic promise, I encourage every Christian to remember that the Lord is the sovereign ruler over heaven and earth. Therefore, we don't need to worry about these wars. We don't need to worry about the rumors of wars. We already know that the King of Kings is going to secure the victory for those who trust in his Messiah. That being the case, we have to go out and share this good news. We should share the good news about Jesus Christ and about the salvation that is received by faith in the sacrifice of our Savior. And as we do, the Lord will help us to become those believers who are truly fighting the good fight of faith, and all for the glory of God.